Titan, right-hand side, Drake Sasser, Is It Phoenix? Showdown to see who'll be advancing to the semifinals. So much at stake for these players, both live in the race for those Players' Championship slots. Of course, Matthew Dilks sitting in second place presently. This is a huge, huge match for him. Drake very bored by the prospect of climbing the leaderboard, but willing to do so anyway.
And we got a couple of team kills set up here in the top 8 too. Dilks,
absolutely.
A recent addition to Team Nova, and as part of him joining the team, is starting to make content, which I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear Dilks' thoughts, especially on Amulet Titan. It's a rule every team has to have one Amulet guy. Nova now meeting their quota.
So why haven't you joined the team yet? I feel like you could fill that slot on a lot of rosters.
Well, I don't play many tournaments, Jerry. I come here and do this with you. Dilks just leading on Ancient Stirrings. Going to pass the turn back to Drake. Plays a land. We're back on Dilks now. Gemstone Mine, the play from Matthew Dilks. Going to use that right away. 2 mana Engineered Explosives on 2. Ready to deal with anything of the ice or Pyromancer Ascension that may show up.
Yeah, that's the number. So it doesn't hurt to actually run that out there immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, players, of course, with perfect information here. They know what's in the other player's deck.
Against something like humans, you might be willing to sandbag the Engineered Explosives, maybe try and get a 2-for-1. That's basically almost never going to happen against Is It Phoenix.
Right. Sasser could bounce Engineered Explosive with Echoing Truth, but isn't going to blow it up.
That's fine.
2 copies of Finale of Promise. Definitely the higher end of the number of Finale of Promise we've seen in any Is It Phoenix deck here in Modern.
And also Drake, the highest finishing Is It Phoenix player.
Worth noting. Not determinative, but interesting. Sleight of hand here from Drake.
If you can't trust results, Brian, what can you trust?
Nothing. Trust no one, Jerry. Faithless Looting, follow-up from Drake Sasser. Well, that's a pretty good set of discards. And there's a gut shot. It's go time. 2 Phoenixes coming back from the graveyard on turn 2 for Drake Sasser, and that is the dream start.
It is, especially when facing down an Engineered Explosives on 2.
Absolutely. So Dilks is going to be under a lot of pressure here. He needs to get on the battlefield very quickly.
You see this a lot from the Is It Phoenix decks, where the presence of a single Phyrexian mana spell is just an absolute game changer.
Yep. Only 2 copies of Gut Shot in Drake's deck, but he found it when it counted. Dilks, though, has a fine follow-up. It's Azusa. Gonna play a couple extra lands, ready to present Primeval Titan on the next turn, possibly. But, crucially, no Amulet. Not gonna be any combo kills. Couple of results from our back tables. We have Connor Mullally going up a game, Samuel Thompson going up a game.
Quick.
Yeah, very quick results there. Those 2 Arclight Phoenixes going to fly over one more time, dropping Dilks down to 7. Sasser has a follow-up. It's Flame Slash. Azusa going to leave the battlefield. That matters a lot. You might say, oh, Dilks is already at Primeval Titan mana, but would have looked to pad his life total a little bit using Azusa, some bounce lands, and the Radiant Fountain in his deck. A little bit less access to that now.
Right, instead now he just gets to gain the original 2 life, but I think the extra 2 would have helped him a lot, would have put him out of Lightning Bolt range.
I think so. He can still go Radiant Fountain into Vesuva here. It's an option.
Can't copy Radiant Fountain, though, because they're both entering
at the same time.
Yeah.
You're right. Yep. Yeah, so only 2 life possibly on the table for Dilks here.
So the only thing that could really save him from a Lightning Bolt is a Pact of Negation, I think. And given the lands that he has on the battlefield, that's not going to be an option.
Yep. He's going to go ahead and return that Radiant Fountain.
So does Drake have the Lightning Bolt?
Yep, he does. He absolutely does. And he's going to direct it at Dilks. Takes the turn back. He was sitting like someone who had Lightning Bolt in his hand. Everything about his posture. Yep. It was very clear. Dilks now at 6. 2 Arclight Phoenixes on the battlefield. They're going to attack, and Matthew Dilks going to pick him up. Drake Sasser up a very, very quick game. Found one of his 2 gut shots and was able to put 2 Phoenixes on the battlefield on turn 2. If he doesn't have that gut shot, I don't think he wins that game.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dilks is just able to run away with that Primeval Titan, leverage it, and just take over. But he had it, and that means he's up a game now against Matthew Dilks.
That's a nice folder from Drake.
Does that blunt your enthusiasm for Dilks' chances in this matchup? That was a tough game 1.
We've seen this happen to Dilks so many times. Well, he loses a game, he looks unhappy, he kind of got beat up, but he just ends up winning anyway. It happens all the time.
He does find a way. As I mentioned, Dilks, War of the Spark hater, doesn't care for Karn, the great creator, but we know there's so many powerful cards for Modern. You see the Raise Boar, of course, Dominic Harvey leveraging that one. Teferi Time Reveler also present in our top 8. If you want to get your hands on these cards, you know what to do. Go to go.starcitygames.com/war. We'll get some boxes over to you with the quickness, and you can start putting Raise Boars onto the battlefield as early as turn 2 today.
No, is there a Grazer in Dilks' deck? Oh yeah, there's one. He's got a war card.
One Grazer. He loves the Grazer. We talked about that as well. He thinks it's excellent.
Just as a spirit guide, effectively.
As a spirit guide, he said the reach comes up quite often. He thinks the ultra body matters. He likes Grazer a lot, I'm telling you. He says it's very important in situations where you don't want to expose, like Azusa would be exposed in a certain position, whereas Grazer, you just get that trigger instantly. Obviously, there's the Sakura Tribe Scout situation where it just dies before it does anything. So he's pretty sold on that one of Arboreal Grazer. Not looking to go hard, likes the one of.
It's just a lot of nonsense and hand waving. I like one as a tutor target because it could come up where you have access to 5 mana with an amulet, and this actually gets you the extra mana, but
he says it comes up all the time. And the upsides beyond that just clinch the deal. I think he would do it if it was just that Simian Spirit Guide application. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at player sideboards here. We'll start over on Dilks' side. Do you see 3 Abrade, 2 Spell Pierce, 2 Fire Spout, 1 Tireless Tracker, 1 Rurik Thar. Again, all the old hits coming back for Dilks this week. Reclamation Sage, Ramunap Excavator, another old hit. Negate, 1 Hornet Queen, 1 Engineered Explosives, and finally 1 Cavern of Souls. Jerry, what do you like here from Dilks?
Engineered Explosives. Is Rurik Thar good?
Rurik Thar's not bad. It's not bad. It can close out some games where you'd still have vulnerability if you go get Primeval Titan.
They have deck lists. Dilks knows that Drake has no way to actually counter Primeval Titan, so you don't need that extra copy of Cavern of Souls.
Right.
The Spell Pierces are okay. The Negate's okay. You definitely need the Reclamation Sage for all these moons.
Yep.
And then Hornet Queen, I think, was the thing that Dilks was bringing in against Phoenix.
Yep, mostly fine. It's not a tremendous upgrade, but it is an upgrade in a few situations. I think the big thing, though, is going to be effectively managing Drake's moons. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at Drake's sideboard. You see 1 Dispel, 1 Flame Slash, 1 Jace, the Mind Sculptor, 1 Saheeli, 2 Alpine Moon, 2 Blood Moon, 4 moons in total, 2 Spell Pierce, 3 Surgical Extraction, 1 Beacon Bolt, and finally 1 Anger of the Gods. Jerry, what are you doing if you're in Drake's seat?
Not all moons are created equal. I would only bring in the Blood Moons. I would not touch the Alpine Moons.
Okay.
I like to Dispel to counter packs and maybe win some counter wars. Spell Pierce is pretty decent. I think you probably need the Beacon Bolt, even though it's not excellent, because a lot of the time Primeval Titan does the damage with the enters the battlefield trigger.
Yep.
But I still think it's good to have it. But it really depends on how many cards Drake wants to board out. I do think things like Lightning Bolt, you really want to stay in your deck. You need to kill Sakura Tribe Scout and Azusa, and also having that extra reach to finish off the game like we saw in Game 1 is huge.
We have our first result coming from the other tables. Connor Mullally takes the match. And like that, Jerry has already gotten one of his predictions wrong.
I got it wrong, and that messes everything up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could change a lot of things there.
So we have Dredge moving on to the semis.
It's going to be a Dredge mirror match, one of the most interesting mirror matches on the planet.
It's kind of like a smile from Dilks. I saw it, little smirk, maybe.
You got to root for Dilks here. After having such an incredible season here on the SCG Tour, it really feels like he's earned that trophy at this stage. Top-notch result after top-notch result with Amulet Titan. Definitely deserves credit as one of the players who really pushed this deck into the top tier of Modern.
You don't really root for the underdog, do you?
I don't know. I mean, it depends on the situation. I'm not rooting against Drake. I think either player is deserving here. It just feels like Dilks is due at this point. And you don't want him to start getting like that little bit of trepidation every time he moves into the top 8. He's going to start thinking, is there something wrong? Why can't I close? He's been in this position so many times. Definitely looking for that win now here on the SCG Tour.
In every top 8, there are 8 players.
Only one can win.
Only one can win. You're 1 in 8 to win, statistically, once you get to the top 8. How many top 8s does Dilks have?
I don't know off the top of my head. Not 8. And we're being told by our producers, Dilks has 3 top 8s.
That's fine.
All in Modern, all representing the 3 Modern tournaments he has played here on the SCG Tour.
Those are some good stats.
That's pretty good. Pretty good. This is pretty good, too. Turn 2 Azusa. Via Amulet of Vigor. Going to go ahead and cast an Ancient Stirrings here. Nice little start from Dilks here. What's going to be the find off this Ancient Stirrings? There's Slayer's Stronghold in hand for Dilks, so a little bit of awkward drawing here. There's Vesuva in hand. This is where things get weird. Titan setups not quite as clean as they usually are once you start drawing your Boros Garrison, Slayer's Stronghold.
Yeah, it's definitely true.
And your copy land.
Dilks still has access to Primeval Titan on the next turn if Azusa lives.
Don't think Drake's going to want that to happen.
Now I see Drake immediately pull a Lightning Bolt to the front, too.
Is going to cash in that Lightning Bolt. Azusa heads to the bin. Second play for the turn.
Oh, no,
look what it is.
It's the Alpine Moon.
Alpine Moon. Naming, what do you think? Slayer Stronghold?
Oh, this is actually wild.
Named Boros Garrison.
Okay, that's good. If he named anything else, he was going to be facing down to 6/6 on this turn.
What's in hand here for Dilks?
He's got a Summoner's Pact, an Amulet of Vigor, and a Vesuva.
This could still be a nasty turn here.
Well, what does this Vesuva do?
There's the Amulet of Vigor.
I don't think there's anything that Dilks can really do on this turn.
Yeah, maybe not.
No Azusa, no Boros Garrison. I think basically just capped at 4 mana.
Yeah, it's just going to pass the turn back to Drake here. Very effective name with that Alpine Moon. And now Drake's at 3 mana. Gonna tap 2 of it. It's Thing in the Ice. Serum Visions is the play from Sasser. Draws a card, takes a look at the top 2. Both on the bottom. Not the super-powered Serum Visions that we saw from Drake in round 15.
I'll keep the top 14 cards on top of my library.
Passes the turn back to Dilks. 2 amulets on the battlefield.
And a
third amulet. Vesuva in hand and just has to pass back one more time. 1 mana short on that turn was Dilks. If Dilks gets to do his thing here, he's going to present some classic amulet puzzles.
Oh, yeah.
Because he has everything that you normally want to grab with Primeval Titan and a bunch of Amulet of Vigors just sitting in his hand and on the battlefield.
In order to get there, to cast Primeval Titan, he needs to make his land drop, too. And then he'll have to pay for Summoner's Pact on the following turn.
Yes, he will.
So very awkward position to be in.
Here's Thought Scour. That means there's a clock on the board for Drake Sasser. On the next turn, Dilks can just play Vesuva, copying the Gemstone Mine, get a bunch of mana that way, because it will come in tapped. You'll get 3 triggers off the Amulet of Vigor.
Which is 6 mana.
Mm-hmm.
Standard Classic top 8 players, please report to table 277 for your top 8 match.
Here comes an Arclight Phoenix. That was binned, and already the clock is ticking for Dilks. 1 mana available for Drake Sasser. Dispel would be incredible here. Another update from the back tables. Sounds like Samuel Thompson going to be advancing on, beating Liam Daly. Jerry's pick for winner of the tournament, alive and well.
Hey, I got one right.
Nice call.
This is a big turn right here. Dilks facing down lethal already.
Mm-hmm. Figuring out exactly what he's capable of.
Assuming he's even able to present Primeval Titan on this turn, he's still in a lot of trouble, though.
Right. If anyone is equipped to figure out this puzzle, it's certainly Matthew Dilks. And if he doesn't solve it, you know he's going to be thinking about this one for a long time. There's the Vesuva. Boros Garrison. Going to get those 3 triggers. Bunch of mana floating. Here's Summoner's Pact. Oh, Spell Pierce in hand for Drake Sasser.
Not a Dispel, but in the case of stopping Primeval Titan, it's the same thing.
Right. Dilks going to let the resolve and has the second Summoner's Pact. That one is going to resolve. And Dilks is going to go grab Primeval Titan.
All right, so what can Dilks do?
I don't even want to guess what Dilks is going to do here. If you gave me a long time, maybe I could come up with something for you, but this is an incredibly complicated situation.
Well, you can get Growth Chamber Teleria West. You have 9 mana. You can basically do that as many times as you have Teleria West, right?
Right.
And put in a bunch of Primeval Titans. So I guess that takes care of the Awoken Horror, because you can just put a bunch of 6/6s in front of it.
Right, then you have some blockers. And then the end one, you can gain a little bit of life with it as well. Looks like we're dealing with a judge call right now.
So he Vesuva'd the Boros Garrison, but I believe you still have to pick up a land with the Vesuva, right?
Lose all land types and abilities.
No?
Don't know. Honestly, do not. We'll let the judges sort it out. They'll figure out if Dilks should have a land in hand. And why don't we bring it back to the booth? We'll get that one all squared up.
Let them figure it out.
Right, that's not our job. We're here to just look good and talk about Magic. We do half of that very well.
I think we do both at half efficacy.
Okay, well, you know, nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
And Dilks not facing down a perfect draw from his Amulet Titan deck. Like I said, I can't wait to see what Dilks does here. You mentioned you have some ability to start chaining Titans together. That's huge. You start getting those Teleria West, you transmute them into more packs, but you leave yourself having to pay for Pact on the next turn.
Oh, yeah. He's also capped by the amount of packs that are left in his deck, which is only 2.
Right, only 2 left.
And then you still would have to pay for all the packs next
So
turn.
he's got to do this incredibly complicated dance of committing exactly enough of his resources, being able to do something on his next turn, being able to answer Drake's clock that he's presenting right now. It's such a complicated situation, maybe one of the most complicated I've ever seen from the Amulet Titan side.
Yeah, this is a nice Amulet puzzle screenshot.
This is what frightens people. Like, this type of situation is, how do I possibly navigate it? And this is why so many people avoid picking up the deck. And quite frankly, I don't feel like I would be prepared to analyze this situation to its fullest.
Yeah, of course.
Despite having played the deck a ton. Like, this is something that has not come up for me ever. If it's come up for anyone, it's got to have come up for Dilks.
With basically any deck in Modern, there's a finite amount of possibilities that can actually come up. And I think Amulet Titan,
It's a much larger finite amount.
like, is it? It's not actual infinite, right? But
No,
it's a
no.
very, very large number.
A very large number for sure. And like I said, I trust Dilks to be able to navigate it, but maybe it's just not a navigatable situation. Maybe he's just doomed. I mean, he's very limited by the presence of those cards already on the battlefield. He's got some life gain options available. He can't even copy the life gain options. He doesn't have Azusa to take advantage of extra drops. That was huge in the first game we saw. Drake Sasser being able to kill Azusa really stunted Dilks' ability to put himself at a safe life total. That's going to come up again here.
You want to try and figure it out right now?
Nope, I do not. Because there's no chance we get it.
Okay, so Dilks has 4 mana right now.
Okay, we're trying. Go ahead.
I think he has to bounce the land to his hand.
Okay.
So that's 3 mana. He has 1 pack that he has to pay for. 2 packs left in this deck. So I think he can go Grow Chamber Teleria, pick up Teleria, puts a Grow Chamber onto the battlefield.
Okay.
Transmute that for packed, get Titan, do the same thing, put a Grow Chamber into play, pick up Teleria West.
Okay.
Transmute Teleria West for a packed. At that point, you have 7 mana. You have to pay for 3 packs on the next turn.
That's no good.
Can you get Azusa? Does that do anything? You have enough mana to... Nah, I don't even think you can
probably
do that.
not. Yeah, maybe you could get Azusa and use that to play an extra bounce land
Yeah.
and then be able to attack. Very complicated. We're getting an update now from our judges.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay, here's the update. Let me break it down for you. Vesuva attempted to copy Boros Garrison. The problem is, though, Boros Garrison doesn't have abilities anymore, and so it wouldn't have come into play tapped, but Vesuva itself comes into play tapped.
But it doesn't matter. It copies the... Oh, yeah, I don't know.
None of this makes sense to me. None of this makes sense to me. If it enters as the copy, it loses the abilities of the original? We're being told that this does not check out. I don't know exactly what's happening with this judge call. We're hearing head judge rules. As it enters, it was capping the land and therefore shouldn't be tapped.
It's something about layers. I don't know.
Okay. I'm just going to assume that our head judge knows what he's talking about, and I do not. This, again, incredibly complicated situation. Why don't we go back down to the match? We'll let it play out as the judge has ruled. I don't know what the fix is. Did we rewind to the point before the Vesuva had been played?
So speaking of infinite possibilities for the Amulet Titan deck, you ever had Vesuva, a bounce land that has been Alpine Moons?
No, I have not. All right, so we rewound to nothing. It sounds like they kept the match as it was. 2 main decisions had been made. So this is Dilks, despite that misplay, being able to go ahead and resolve the Titan trigger here. And you see he did find Simic Growth Chamber plus Teleria West, going to use that to produce 9 mana, return Teleria West to hand, transmute that Teleria West. It's going to use 3 of that mana. Dilks going to go a searching, finds another Summoner's Pact.
So there's got to be a way out of this.
Yes.
Because it's also possible that you could do this Titan thing while also just transmuting, getting engineered explosives and, blowing up the Awoken Horror.
Right. So here's another Titan. No mana floating now. There's 2 packs to pay for.
Okay, so if he gets Growth Chamber Teleria West, picks up Teleria West after floating 9 mana thanks to the Amulet triggers, you can transmute that for Engineered Explosives, kill the Awoken Horror, have 8 mana next turn to pay for some
Exactly 8, yep. But we're going to get Colony Garden, Radiant Fountain.
I like this.
These both remain on the battlefield. There's a blocker for the Awoken Horror. There's some life gain in the form of Radiant Fountain. This feels pretty safe.
This is also 8 mana, but you don't get to kill the Awoken Horror. Instead, you get to pad your life total a little bit and chump block it with the plant.
Let's see how this works out for Dilks.
I think it's also a little rough the other way, trying to find Engineered Explosives, just because then you're down a Teleria West, which could matter, depending on what Dilks' plan is for next turn.
those Titans get to go to work with 3 Amulet of Vigors just sitting there on the battlefield. Scary times for Drake Sasser. He knows as much, thinking about what he can do on this turn.
Think about this game. Dilks had turn 1 Amulet, turn 2 Azusa, and then kind of just bricked off for a while. Drake had a pretty good draw, and now suddenly it's just like
On the back foot?
Yeah, you're threatening lethal effectively on the next turn.
That's what Amulet can do to you.
Just do nothing for 4 turns or whatever. And then
Yep, then you got there. Well, anytime you have multiple Amulets of Vigor, that's certainly going to be the case. There's usually a way out if you find that Titan.
I mean, I guess granted, the game should not even be in this situation because of the Alpine Moon and the confusion.
Right. Well, there were other options available to Dilks. He could have copied the Gemstone Mine.
Oh, sure. So, yeah, I guess it didn't really change anything. Although, once he makes that decision, if they catch it immediately, he's not able to do it.
But if he copies the Gemstone Mine, he has to use...
Runs out of counters.
He uses it 3 times, and then he's only got 7 mana on the battlefield right now.
Yeah.
So that actually is very impactful.
Well, here's another Alpine Moon.
Okay, let's complicate things a little bit further. Get some more Alpine Moons on the battlefield.
Yep.
That one is on the Simic Growth Chamber.
Ooh, that's mana -1.
Yeah, and that's going to do it. That gets the handshake from Dilks and Drake Sasser with the help, Jerry, of Alpine Moon. Gonna take down Matthew Dilks. Not impressed by Alpine Moon still?
Nah.
Okay. I mean, it was incredible there. It obviously stole the game for Drake Sasser.
It was incredibly confusing.
I'll give you that. Absolutely. I still don't know exactly how things worked with that Vesuva. I definitely am going to take some time to talk to the head judge and try and understand that a little bit better. But that was some crazy stuff. A very, very complicated battlefield. But ultimately, Drake Sasser moving on to the semifinals, and once more, Matthew Dilks unable to convert in the top 8. I know that's got to sting a little bit. Still a great performance here from Dilks, but I know he really wanted this trophy.
I think by the time he gets his 8th top 8, he'll win one.
Okay, we'll double check on that. We'll come back. We'll
That's
also
what the
come
math
back.
says.
Right, can't argue with math. We'll also come back in about 3 minutes with some time-shifted magic here from the quarterfinals. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the quarterfinals here at SCG Louisville. I am Brian Gottlieb. This is Jerry Thompson, and we are brought to you by our friends at Okie Dokie Dice and Ultimate Guard. Coming off a very confusing quarterfinal match, we had a chance. We talked with the head judge after the match.
Personally,
Jerry and I investigated a little bit. Head judge missed the text on Vesuva that said Vesuva comes into play tapped. So ultimately made what seems like an incorrect ruling, but didn't back anything up. Basically, the game played out the way it should have, despite kind of miffing it a little bit.
and I was like, yo, make sure that Dilks and Drake do not get warnings. Expunge that from their record.
That's true, and their records have been expunged at this point. I hear they're completely reformed and moving on without any warnings on their record.
They're now hireable.
Right. Nothing shady in their past. So we have more magic for you. We have a time-shifted match here from our quarterfinals, which we are happy to bring you now. And it is going to be Oliver Tomajko taking on Roger Bodie. Tomajko, of course, the first seed coming into this top 8. Playing Dredge, taking on Roger Bodie. Bodie on Azorius Control. Big performance from Azorius Control here in this format.
Do you notice Roger's shirt?
He's got an Azorius shirt on. Wow. Not hiding any information as Roger. We know we don't have the names up. We'll get them up for you in just a moment. A little glitch with our time-shifted match. That's okay. We'll start off. Both players just playing land. Jerry, any experience in the Azorius Control Dredge matchup?
Not really. I'm not a big proponent of either one of these decks usually. From the Azorius side of things, it seems close to impossible without access to any sort of graveyard hit.
Yeah, in game one, I think the Azorius deck is very far behind. Here's a Spell Pierce, though, in that Cathartic Reunion.
Big play.
Turns out you still get to put those cards in the graveyard, but happy to slow down Oliver just a little bit.
Yeah, I think in this one instance, this is where you're happy to have Cathartic Reunion have the additional cost of discarding the cards.
Yeah, absolutely. How about another Cathartic Reunion?
Just trying again. Looks like this one's going to get countered as well.
Yeah,
and
looks like Bodie's managing all these effectively.
Slow dredging for Oliver. Probably a Dovin's veto.
It is a veto. More cards entering the graveyard, but let's keep track. There's 3 prized amalgams at the ready for Oliver. Roger going to go ahead and play Teferi, Time Reveler. There's the 4th prized amalgam.
Just waiting for a Bloodghast or something similar.
We're going to go ahead and flashback Faithless Looting. How about a little dredging? No Narcomoeba, no Bloodghast. Tons of prized amalgams. The thing is, though, no pressure from Roger here. And in fact, no land drop.
And that Teferi not taken up either.
Here's Surgical Extraction on Narcomoeba. That shows up at a good time. So there's a tiny bit of graveyard hate in Roger Bodie's main deck.
So now, if Roger's able to Surgical the Bloodghasts, there's basically no way for these prized amalgams to return.
That sounds pretty good to me. Let's see if Roger can put that together.
Just needs a Snapcaster Mage.
3 copies of Snapcaster Mage in Roger Bodie's deck. 2 copies of Surgical Extraction. And if you want to take a look at Roger Bodie's deck list and all other deck lists from day 2, they're now available over on our coverage page. Head over to StarCityGames.com and you can take a peek, see what the players worked with this past weekend.
All right, here's a Bloodghast.
Yeah, there's a Snapcaster Mage.
That's not great, though. Oliver had a fetch at the ready from a Life from the Loam last turn, and he's going to be able to still bring that Bloodghast back.
And that's going to get fired up. Here comes Bloodghast. Bodie maybe needing to play that one a little bit slower, but it was going to be tough from that point.
Now, there's really nothing that he could do, though, with the fetch land available.
What about prized amalgam?
That you could do. That actually sounds good.
I think that was the play there.
Yeah, just missing the fetch land, I guess.
Here's a Dark Blast from Bodie. Bodie forced to cash in a Path to Exile to do a Rampant Growth impression. Not the worst thing to happen. You make that play quite often in Azorius Control. But now Bodie going to be facing down those 4 prized amalgams at the ready. There is one copy of Secure the Waste in Bodie's deck. Tomiko knows that.
So another Life from the Loam, and Oliver has done his job, dredging as much as he possibly could, filling his graveyard, getting some creatures onto the battlefield, and now it's time to start casting Life from the Loam, build up his hand size, and start threatening with those lethal conflagrates.
Here's Supreme Verdict from Roger.
Instant speed, thanks to Teferi's +1.
Appreciate it, Teferi. Life from the Loam from Oliver. Gonna bring back 3 lands. Big graveyard from Tomiko. I think this game might look a lot different if those prized amalgams aren't there.
Maybe. It's hard to say.
Turn passes back to Bodie. Tomiko able to generate a battlefield seemingly out of nowhere. Looks like it's time to cash in Teferi Time Reveler. It's going to bounce something, draw a card. Maybe nothing. Bounce nothing?
Yeah, I could see that.
Life from the Loam is dredged.
Just don't want Oliver to have an extra card in his hand for Conflagrate.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. That makes sense. How about Cryptic Command? Tap all your creatures. Bodie's trying to deck Tomiko right now. That's what's happening. It's going to be challenging with all those Conflagrates available.
If he has enough sweepers and cryptic commands and also 2 counterspells for the 2 Conflagrates, he could do it.
And that's what he's thinking right now, for sure. Here's Conflagrate number 1. Here's Dovin's Veto. Has the first answer.
All right, Conflagrate for 6. So how many cards can Oliver actually get into his hand now?
I'm not sure, because dredging is starting to not be an option, given the size of his library. The question is, though, can Bodie manage those threats that are now on the battlefield? Gonna tap 5 mana. It's Teferi time. Teferi gonna plus, and Bodie's gonna scoop him up. Had no answer for the 4 prized amalgams as well as the 2 blood gas.
Yeah, that's surgical though.
I don't know. I think that might have been the misstep. Well, we're going to go to sideboards now, and Bodie's going to get some big help from his sideboard. Why don't I go ahead and give you a read? He's looking at 1 Pithing Needle, 1 Cataclysmic Gear Hulk, 1 Torrential Gear Hulk theme deck here from Bodie. 3 Rest in Peace, that's the big one. 1 Celestial Purge, 1 Ceremonious Rejection, 1 Condemn, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 1 Disenchant, 2 Geist of Saint Traft, and a Timely Reinforcements. Jerry, what are you liking on the Azorius control side?
Rest in Peace is the slam dunk. Cards like Celestial Purge and Condemn can potentially come in, snipe a Blood Gas, snipe a Prized Amalgam. Could also look at Timely Reinforcements as a defensive tool, and then I really like Geist of Saint Traft to actually put pressure on the dredge deck.
Let's see if Roger agrees. Meanwhile, over on Tomiko's side, we have a sideboard of 1 Alpine Moon, Jerry's favorite card.
It's banned. Get it out.
Too confusing. We can't deal with that anymore. 2 Leyline of the Void, 3 Ancient Grudge, 1 Assassin's Trophy, 3 Lightning Axe, 4 Nature's Claim, 1 Blast Zone, and Tomiko has to love the perfect information here and knows what hate exactly he has to play around.
I mean, you get to see what you have to face, but Rest in Peace is the scariest
Right,
card.
it's the worst one.
No, even if you destroy it, even if you have Nature's Claim at the ready and it somehow
damage.
resolves, yeah, your graveyard is nuked. But regardless, you still have to bring in at least some of those Nature's Claims, probably all of them, honestly. The Blast Zone, the Assassin's Trophy I really like, and I think that's about it.
Okay.
What do you think?
A little bit of a lighter touch there. I think that Rest in Peace is the problem card for this deck, right? Like
Yeah.
it is the hammer. It's the reason why Legacy Dredge in a lot of ways doesn't feel like a deck anymore. As soon as Rest in Peace started proliferating into that format, the even more powerful version of Dredge had a very difficult time dealing with it. And this version of Dredge, a little bit powered down in comparison to its Legacy counterpart. Big surprise there. Looks like players are keeping 7 here. Bodhi going to start with the fetch land. Island is the find. Passes the turn back to Tamaiko, representing Spell Pierce. Saw Spell Pierce used to pretty good effect in game 1. That was a one of, though.
I think it was a fun of in that situation.
Well, Roger Bodie had a lot of fun with it. I don't know if Oliver did. Tamaiko going to go ahead and discard a Dark Blast as well as a Prized Amalgam. Prized Amalgam already back on the case. Small dredge here. It's going to be Dark Blast. Another Prized Amalgam. Oliver has the cheat code when it comes to that card right now. Finding it with regularity. Here's a Life from the Loam. Pick up 3 lands. Pass the turn back to Bodhi. Going to go ahead and cycle Hieroglyphic Illumination, Jerry's favorite play in the entire format. Super powerful.
Maybe in all of Magic, honestly.
Wow. Bold claim there.
Well, it's my favorite. I can have any favorite
You say whatever
I
you want. Yeah, I can't argue with you. Turn back to Bodhi. Here's Narset. Narset going to go looking in those top 4 cards. Finds Path to Exile. Narset probably looking for something else there. I expect Rest in Peace, but Path to Exile is a nice find. Creeping Chill in the dredges this turn for Oliver Tamaiko.
Narset is very close to being good against dredge. But the fact that they replaced their draw steps with dredging, it's kind of interesting.
Certainly effective against something like Cathartic Reunion in some situations. Saw a Surgical Extraction found there for Bodhi, and here's the hammer. It's Rest in Peace time. Tamaiko going to need to rebuild from this position.
How dredge wins from here is either by hard casting its creatures or blowing up that Rest in Peace. And if Oliver doesn't have it immediately, have a way to do it, then it's very, very difficult.
There was Cathartic Reunion from Tamaiko, and he just scoops him up.
Well, against that Narset, it doesn't do anything.
Nothing. Actual nothing. Was that like a Magic Arena misclick there? You think he forgot about the Narset?
I think he forgot about it.
Yeah. I mean, there's not really any other explanation when there's Rest in Peace on the battlefield, right?
Right.
Yeah. Look, we keep talking about these static abilities on these Planeswalkers catching everyone at this point. People mistake that all the time.
That's what I'm saying. Narset's almost good against dredge.
There, it looked pretty good.
But when you're not dredging, it's good.
Yeah. So we're going to head to a game 3. And like we said, Bodhi getting much stronger in these game 3s. 2 Surgical Extraction, 3 Rest in Peace, Celestial Purge. A lot of meaningful cards here for Roger.
Yeah, you also get to remove just some of the clunky cards. I think the sweepers in general are not that strong. Secure the Waste is maybe not something you really need access to. Commit Memory is technically Graveyard Hate, but...
Very technically.
And Teferi Time Raveler also not doing a whole lot of work.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me. Players getting ready for game 3. As we mentioned several times, this is a huge tournament for Tamaiko.
Top 8 finish is good, but I don't think it gets him striking distance of the top 3.
I don't know. Going to go ahead and take a mulligan. Tamaiko going to 6. Looks like Bodhi is satisfied with the opener.
And don't be fooled, there is no I in Oliver's last name.
Yeah, Oliver's name already a little bit tricky to pronounce. You don't need to throw extra vowels in there to confuse me. We know pronunciation, not my strong suit. Here's a Cathartic Reunion from Oliver. That's going to go ahead and resolve.
No Spell Pierce this time, and Tamaiko not discarding any dredgers either, but setting up a decent turn 3 by discarding Bloodghast and Prized Amalgam.
Possible explosive start. Do you see Path to Exile in Bodhi's hand? And a tapped land, Celestial Colonnade, so Rest in Peace not available for the blowout here. There's a land. That's going to bring back the Bloodghast. End of turn. Bring back the Prized Amalgam. Opt is the cast from Bodhi. What's the turn 3 play? Nothing. Passes the turn back to Tamaiko. The beats start coming. Here's Path to Exile on Bloodghast. Tamaiko has a follow-up, Faithless Looting. 2 cards about to head to the bin here.
Best card in the format.
Strong case for it.
Other than Hieroglyphic Illumination.
Of course. Nobody would dispute that. Stinkweed Imps, 2 copies heading to the bin, and a follow-up Faithless Looting. That's going to do a lot of dredging here.
Surprised that Bodhi just has nothing to stop that. This is so wild.
Right, he kept 7. You assume there's something.
Just ops.
Ops for days. And Tamaiko generating a quick explosion onto the battlefield here. 2 copies of Prized Amalgam. Bloodghast, Narcomoeba. 9 power over on Tamaiko's side. What does Bodhi have? I think I saw Settle the Wreckage in hand. I think.
It's not even in his deck.
You don't think it's in his deck anymore?
It's not his deck to begin with. Secure the Waste?
Oh, I'm sorry. It is Secure the Waste. My mistake. Here's Snapcaster Mage. That's going to come in, bring back Path to Exile.
Bodhi doing his best to just clear out these creatures.
Yeah, I wonder if that is a copy of Secure the Waste, which could buy some time. Tamaiko getting to dredging again. You saw Conflagrate hit the bin there. Conflagrate, sorry. Like I said, pronunciation, my strong suit, as everyone knows. Tamaiko goes ahead and fetches, casts Life from the Loam.
Oliver's pretty well set up.
Yeah.
He's got a bunch of resources, 2 Nature's Claims in hand.
Whew, ready for those rest in pieces. Here comes another Prized Amalgam. Wrath of God is the play from Bodhi.
It's going to be a temporary reprieve.
Very temporary. Oliver's going to go ahead and fetch here. Takes an untap. Time to dredge Stinkweed Imp. Creeping Chill, a little bit of damage. No Narcomoeba though. How about a flashback Faithless Looting? Get a little bit deeper into that deck. There's a few Narcomoebas.
Ooh,
and a Bloodghast.
And a Creeping Chill, putting Bodhi down to 5.
Here's a land.
Bloodghast has haste.
Bloodghast haste.
Bodhi only has 1 mana open. Here's a Conflagrate.
Yeah, that's going to do it. And Oliver Tamaiko takes down Roger Bodhi. A hand without any graveyard hate. Maybe a little bit of a speculative